The trunk in front of me has grown a breathing human face. Moss has transformed into a blood-sucking monster. And bacteria have become visualized conventional weapons. Fireflies have turned the forest into a forbidden zone at night. This is the premise of the 2022 science fiction film Vesper. A blend of dystopian storytelling and the perfect integration of the Cthulhu mythos. The main story begins in the not-too-distant future. Amidst a dual crisis of ecology and survival, human technology has taken a grotesque turn. The rapid development of genetic technology, coupled with the release of viruses and bacteria, has plunged the world into a dark age. Pathogens have killed off edible animals and most of humanity. The surviving human society has regressed to a primitive class system, with a small number of rulers controlling the city known as the castle and holding the majority of resources. The rest of humanity struggles to survive in the harsh conditions surrounding the castle. In order to obtain food, they are forced to exchange children's blood for seeds with the wealthy residents of the castle. Even so, the so-called food supply only lasts for 3 months. Vesper, who is searching for food, luckily uncovers a barely surviving mutated potato. At the same time, a colorful caterpillar adds a touch of color to her eyes. Vesper carefully captures it in a bottle and takes her only harvest of the day back home. She skillfully avoids the mutated flesh-eating plants because Vesper has created them through biotechnology as a means of home defense. Upon returning home, Vesper quickly prepares the food and feeds it directly to her bedridden father. Her father was injured and paralyzed long ago while serving the castle. He struggles to survive with the help of a homemade ventilator created by Vesper. The only assistance provided by the castle is the drone that connects to his consciousness, allowing him to communicate. After taking care of the food, Vesper brings her new discovery to her secret base, an abandoned warehouse. She takes out the colorful caterpillar and begins experimenting. In her quest for better survival, she has always wished to solve the problem of seed viability through genetic extraction and biotechnology. After extracting the genes from the caterpillar using a special potion, Vesper stepped out and saw a pilgrim passing by. She stared at him for a long time because her mother had abandoned her and her father a year ago and disappeared with the pilgrims. Returning home with her emotions in order, Vesper discovered that some creatures at her doorstep had inexplicably died. She realized that someone had broken into her house, but fortunately, her father on the bed was unharmed. However, her father's ventilator was broken. Helpless, Vesper had no choice but to seek assistance at a nearby farm. At the farm, Vesper met the owner, Jonas. Jonas kept a group of children captive and sold their blood seeds to the castle in exchange for food. He was currently ordering one of his boys to execute a wounded clone, a defective product discarded by the castle. As the young boy cruelly stabbed the clone one knife after another, the faces of everyone present grew heavy. But such was the deformed world they lived in. Vesper approached Jonas and offered to trade her own blood seeds to sustain her father's survival, using the cultivating bacteria. However, after extracting Vesper's blood, Jonas heartlessly threw her out. Helpless, Vesper had to find her own solution. She went to the backyard of the farm and took advantage of everyone's attention being drawn to the flying drones, quickly making her way to the room where the cultivating bacteria were kept. Successfully obtaining the bacteria her father needed, she proceeded to another room where food was being cultivated and also took a few seeds. The next day, she showed the seeds to her father, but he realized that they were stolen by Vesper. He sternly demanded she return them, leading to an argument. In frustration, Vesper ran out. In the forest, Vesper came across an injured girl. Mutated moss around her was feeding on the girl's blood. After examining her, Vesper discovered that the girl was still conscious. She immediately brought the girl home, tended to her wounds, and the girl quickly regained consciousness. Vesper also learned from the girl, whose name was Camellia, that she and her father had come out of the castle, but their aircraft had crashed accidentally. She pleaded with Vesper for help in finding her father, offering to bring them into the castle as a reward. This tempted Vesper since she had always yearned to enter the castle. Vesper sought her father's opinion, but he remained silent. Vesper noticed that her father had lost consciousness, and the robot shut down automatically. Suddenly, her father lying on the bed began convulsing for no reason. At that moment, Camellia approached, closed her eyes, and kissed Vesper's father. Miraculously, it immediately calmed him down. The next day, Vesper took her father's consciousness robot and started searching for the crashed aircraft. When she found it and was about to open it, Jonas arrived with a group of children. They opened the hatch, and Vesper also saw Camelia's father. However, after observing him for a while, Jonas covered the man's mouth and ended his life. His only purpose was to obtain useful components from the aircraft. After dealing with the man, Jonas also discovered evidence of another person's presence in the aircraft. He asked Vesper how she found this place, but in order to ensure Camelia's safety, Vesper could only say that she stumbled upon it while searching for food. Back at home, Vesper dared not tell Camellia the truth and could only make excuses, saying that the forest was too vast and they hadn't found anything yet. Camelia's injuries had mostly healed, so she asked Vesper to take her along to search the following day. At that moment, Her father interjected and told Camellia to contact the castle immediately and request assistance. The only communicator was with Jonas. That night, Vesper showed Camellia her experimental achievements, displaying various strange synthetic creatures inside the greenhouse module. Camellia marveled at Vesper's ability to create such things and expressed her determination to introduce Vesper to the castle's Biological Research Institute once they found her father and returned to the castle, offering Vesper better opportunities for development. On the following day, Vesper returned to Jonas' farmyard with the drone, attempting to sneak in again. However, this time, her covert entry failed as Jonas discovered her father's consciousness drone. Jonas dismantled the drone and removed a component directly from it. Despite her worries, Vesper was powerless and could only seize the opportunity when Jonas wasn't paying attention to grab the drone and run away. Upon returning home in a hurry, Vesper discovered that the drone had lost consciousness. This pushed her to the brink of despair because without the drone, she had no means of communicating with her father. Vesper embraced Camellia and wept in anguish. In her desperation, she finally revealed the truth about Camelia's father. Vesper, accompanied by Camellia, ventured into the forest. Camellia couldn't accept the reality and wept bitterly, clutching her father's lifeless body. Vesper promptly pulled Camellia back to the shore and incidentally noticed a scar on Camelia's neck. Vesper lifted Camelia's hair and reached out to touch the scar, only to find her fingers sticking to it. Vesper discovered that Camellia was also a clone. Camellia revealed the truth to Vesper. Yes, she was indeed a clone, but a unique one with intelligence and independent thinking. Her father, who was also her creator, escaped from the castle with her because it was a grave offense to create intelligent clones within the castle. Her father had made an unknown deal with the castle and planned to infiltrate it secretly, but their aircraft was discovered and destroyed by the castle. The harsh reality shattered Vesper's illusions, but kind-hearted Vesper still brought Camellia back home. Fortunately, Vesper managed to repair her father's consciousness drone successfully. She immediately informed her father of the truth, but he didn't seem surprised. He had already suspected that things were not so simple. He comforted Vesper and assured her that Camellia had no choice but to act as she did, because clones are based on obeying the orders of their maker. T-Blossom in the other room is ready to end her life. She picks up a knife and prepares to stab her in the scar on her back. The first stab misses. The commotion startles Vesper, who comes over to check it out and stops T-Blossom in the first place. With Vesper's comforting, Camelia's emotions gradually calmed down. After helping Camellia tend to her wound, Vesper asked Camellia for some blood samples. She wanted to try unlocking the secrets within Camelia's body. Vesper dropped Camelia's blood onto a genetic map and discovered that Camelia's genes were indeed encrypted. Her DNA clearly contained genetic material that did not belong to her. Driven by curiosity, she began to learn more about Camellia. However, Camellia told Vesper that her existence revolved solely around accompanying and caring for her creator. Most of the time, she would play the piano nearby while her creator worked, merely to help him concentrate better. Then, Camellia started playing for Vesper as well. To Vesper's astonishment, as the music played, Camelia's genes underwent corresponding changes. After having Camellia play the piano repeatedly, the genetic lock on Camellia automatically released. Thanking God, Vesper immediately took out a food seed, diluted it, and dropped its genetic material onto the map. She watched as Camelia's genes seamlessly merged with the seed's genetic material. Excitedly, she called her father over. She told her father that she had discovered a way to unlock the castle's seeds. This meant she had created a sustainable food seed. With it, they would never have to go hungry again. Upon hearing this, Camellia also understood the purpose behind her father's escape from the castle and the deal with the other castle. However, upon hearing this, her father immediately urged Camellia to leave with Vesper as soon as possible. He knew the significance of this discovery and understood the castle's ruthlessness. They would undoubtedly not let them go easily, but Vesper refused to leave her father behind. She quickly headed towards her secret base, intending to replace her father's filter and take him along. After Vesper left, Jonas arrived at Vesper's home, and Camellia was eventually discovered. Just as Jonas subdued Camellia and pinned her down on the table, Vesper returned in time and, with the assistance of her father's consciousness drone, they managed to overpower Jonas. However, the next second, Vesper decided to let him go. She even naively revealed her discovery to Jonas. Vesper underestimated human selfishness. As soon as Jonas returned home, he immediately informed the castle. While still fantasizing about changing everyone's lives, Vesper successfully synthesized a new seed for sustainable food production. At that moment, a strange beam of light flashed outside the door, and quickly, an unknown bacterium began to rapidly invade through the crack of the door. Seeing the bacteria indiscriminately corroding everything, Vesper and Camellia jumped onto the table in fear. The bacteria depleted completely at the last moment. Her father urged them to leave immediately because it meant that the castle's people would be coming soon. However, Vesper stubbornly refused to leave her father behind. Her father had to tell Vesper that he had dealings with the castle's people and knew how to communicate with the castle's soldiers. Despite being paralyzed, he wasn't afraid of any retaliation from the castle's people. His well-intentioned lie successfully convinced Vesper. Vesper decided to take Camellia to nearby wetlands to hide. The castle's soldiers arrived as expected. First going to Jonas' house, Jonas went out to greet them, only to be swiftly shot by the soldiers. Then, the soldiers found Vesper's house. Vesper, who hadn't gone far yet, watched her house explode. She knew her father had deceived her, and she knew her father had been killed, but there was no time to continue grieving. Seeing the castle's soldiers chasing after them, they had no choice but to flee deeper into the wilderness. Vesper warned Camellia not to touch the red plants. The next second, a soldier chasing them was pierced through the heart by a peculiar red plant. Only after the soldiers were completely dead did a firefly crawl out of one of their wounds. Another soldier, who arrived later, became even more cautious upon seeing his companion's death. Despite searching, the soldiers eventually found Vesper and Camellia. In order to protect Vesper, Camellia stepped forward voluntarily and expressed her willingness to be taken back to the castle. Vesper wanted to continue resisting, but she was knocked down by a soldier. Camellia seized the opportunity and knocked the soldier's weapon out of his hand. Finally, with their combined efforts, Vesper threw the soldier's weapon into the grass, instantly startling the firefly and eliminating the soldier. But Camellia also finally realizes that the castle will never let her go, and the only way she can keep Vesper safe is to leave alone. Although Vesper didn't want to lose her, Camellia kissed her directly and used a sedative from her body to put Vesper to sleep. When Vesper woke up, she returned to her home, only to find it in ruins. She buried 3 seeds at her doorstep, and on her way out, she encountered 4 surviving children from Jonas' farm. They traveled together, and Vesper came across a pilgrim. Aimlessly, she followed the pilgrim. After an unknown amount of time, Vesper realized they had arrived at the pilgrim's camp. Looking at the towering tower they had built, Vesper struggled to climb to the top. For the first time, she saw a vast world she had never seen before. Gazing at the distant castle she had imagined, Vesper pondered a lot, and her gaze transformed from confusion to determination. The new life her father had sacrificed for had finally allowed her to grow. She was determined to change this dark and deformed world. Vesper turned around, looking at the barren land behind her, and took out the remaining seeds. She let the seeds float away with the wind. She had decided to rebuild a new world here. I am a movie lover. Feel free to subscribe to me. See you next time.